Okay, excuse the technical glitches. We will beat Steve with a stick later, and he's just getting used to it. It's really tough actually with new technology. So your patience is appreciated. I think we'll be with it very soon. This event is a bit of a warm-up gig for the conference in October. I think by today we'll have worked it all out. So yeah, thank you for your patience. Okay, so it's talking about tuning into needs and self-care. So tuning into yourself. So please put in the chat, what do you need? What do you need? You might be able to get your needs met here. I will certainly meet as many of your needs as possible. However, you might not. It might be the best self-care to turn off the computer, to go for a walk, to call your mum, to do whatever you need to do. What do you need? Tuning into your own needs. If you're not sure, maybe a little more time, body awareness, meditating, body scanning, or just checking in with, put on your iPhone alarm to go off 5 times a day to check in with yourself. What do I need right now? Yeah, particularly if you're too nice. Is anyone too nice here? Okay, anyone orientate around other people's needs? Okay, you should look up my friend Erica, my student and colleague Erica. She has a course for women who are too nice. Okay, so it's a conditioning thing. It seems to be like British women suffer from this a lot, some other cultures as well, conditioned to be looking after other people's needs, not your own, right? So it takes almost like a retraining to come back to your own needs. Yeah. Okay, what do you need to empty the recycling? A cold drink. Yeah, so not even, here's a real simple place to begin with self-care, right? Noticing when you're thirsty and drinking. Another reason I drink a lot of water and herbal tea is it makes me keep standing up from the computer to go pee. Steve's got his conference mug, check it out. And what that means is I move my body. So sitting is very bad for us if we do it for too long, too much of the time, most of us do. So peeing is another mindfulness practice, yeah? So reframing the little things you do, like drinking water, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, shaving, going to the toilet, actually reframing these as self-care. So what self-care have you already done today? What have you already done today for self-care? So sometimes people don't recognize that they're better at self-care than they thought. And by recognizing what we're already doing and framing it as self-care, it helps us value ourselves. I gave this example earlier, if some of you were here, that if we were to brush someone else's hair, like a child or an old person we were looking after, or brush their teeth, or if you ever washed an elderly family member, like I remember I washed my dad's feet once because he couldn't reach his feet. He was getting very old, and I washed his feet, and I thought, just because they were getting really dirty, and I didn't want to, it just looked gross, and I was like, Dad, you need to wash. I'll wash your feet, because he couldn't reach them. And he was like, oh, thank you so much, thank you so much. And afterwards, I thought, wow, I actually do that to myself every day. I wash my own feet every day. It's a simple thing, but why don't I recognize that as the act of kindness that it is? Make sense? So recognizing the small acts of kindness, whether that just be washing or drinking some water. Yeah, water is a really nice one to tune into because you have to feel it in the body. And there's a practice of mindfulness. It's exquisite because it has what's called a disappearance. The sensation gets more subtle. So we're training our mindfulness to get more subtle and literally deeper into our bodies. It's a very good micro mindfulness practice, drinking a bit of water, yeah, or tea, of course, if you're English. You came here, good. So recognizing the act of coming here, which in many ways is the hardest thing for self-care, is to recognize you have a problem. Because you know what? There are thousands of people who saw the advert for this, literally thousands, and said, I don't need that. And it's like, yeah, you probably do. Okay. So really, like, if you've crossed the Rubicon already, you've crossed the threshold of saying, you know what, I could improve this. Earlier, I asked people out of 10, how would you rate your self-care? Please put that in the chat. I'd rate mine as a 6, but I tell you what, it used to be a 3. Okay, what do I need to get it to a 9? My biggest form of self-abuse, and this is my next question. It's kind of a harsh question, but I think it's really good that we look at it face on. We look at the opposite. My biggest form of self-abuse is overwork. Okay, so please type in the chat, what is your biggest form of abuse? If you find yourself saying you've got a 2 or a 3 of self-care, don't beat yourself up for having bad self-care. Can you get rid of Slubber's audio, please, Steve?
I can't see her on my screen, so whoever who's unmuted, please mute yourself.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, Steve. This is Sabah from Blue Jeans. Can I get some time from you? This is Sabah from Blue Jeans.
Saba, you're interrupting a call with 176 people. Please mute yourself and message Steve privately. Thank you. So boundaries are part of self-care too. Okay, I'll come to boundaries later, but I didn't want to be interrupted right now. You know, if I'm going to be teaching, for me, boundaries are part of what I want to teach you guys. I hope I wasn't mean to Saba, but I was quite firm, right? I was like, you need to go away right now. Yeah? So I hope that's a model for you that we can be boundaried without being mean or abusive. I didn't shout at her or swear at her or anything. So what are your forms of self-abuse? This is important to recognize. Don't abuse yourself for your self-abuse. That's ironic. Do you understand? So don't be like, oh, I shouldn't eat sugar. I'm such a bad person. If I was a better human and yogi and embodiment person, I'd have nothing but raw carrots all day long. Okay, by the way, that will make you orange if you have nothing but raw carrots. Yeah, literally. So anyway, don't abuse yourself for your self-abuse. Apply kindness. Say to yourself, how could I be 10% better at not doing that? Or what would be an alternative to meet the needs, right? Because let's take substance abuse. I was an alcoholic for 10 years. I drank myself to sleep every night for 10 years. Okay, I wasn't always this pristine model of health and beauty you see in front of you. Why did I do that? I was stressed because I was traumatized, because I had feelings I didn't want to feel and I didn't know how to deal with them. It wasn't until I learned meditation and martial arts and I had alternative practices for dealing with my stress and trauma that I was able to get sober. I'm 13 years sober now. Yeah, and I still have to maintain that. I was in an AA meeting this morning, actually, online. Okay, so thank God for alcohol. It wasn't just self-abuse. It was me looking after myself as best I could, but I found better alternatives. Okay, so yes, looking at your self-abuse and saying, you know, one thing you can say is, I'm not doing that. It's just firm. You can be firm with yourself. Not abusive, firm. Like you would say to a child, no, you've had enough sugar. No more sugar for you. Right? You can be firm. Another way is to apply kindness. So don't apply abuse to your self-abuse. Third way is to look at the needs you're trying to meet with your self-abuse. Yeah, is there a better way to meet those needs? Is there a healthier way? Yeah. Cool. So some forms of self-abuse there. Doing too much. Money. No one ever talks about money. I think very few of our speakers will talk about money today. So I think this is a one to look at. Yeah, people's relationship to money can be a form of self-abuse. Okay. Who here is a sort of chronic under-earner? Now, of course, there are, you know, conditions in the economy and system we're in, but I've got a lot of students who are very alternative and they think they're too spiritual for money, but actually all it is a form of self-abuse. Like, I need to be poor. I'm somehow a better person if I'm poor. Actually, it's just a way of damaging themselves. Yeah, no. I would highly recommend doing your best, and sometimes circumstances prevent it. We're all in different economic conditions, I appreciate. But for me, it's wonderful to have the money to get a massage once a week. Wonderful, right? I can say massage is a form of self-care, but if I can't afford it, I can't do it, right? Yeah. Sometimes self-care is just how we talk to ourselves. This costs nothing. Who here is a chronic, has a strong inner critic? Let's get out our inner critics. Do this pose. Try this pose with me at home. I know when you're off camera, it can be tempting just to sort of do other things and email, but I really recommend participating with the body. So everyone lean back in their chairs, put your chin up, stroke your beard. How familiar is it to be in this like judgmental mode? Let's all judge Steve's beard. Look at it. Too blonde. Okay, and if you were friendly to yourself, what embodiment posture would you be in? What would your embodiment be if you were speaking to yourself in a friendly way? It's impossible to be self-critical if you're in a relaxed, expansive, and loving posture. Contradiction. Your brain just won't work that way. This is embodiment. If you don't believe me, test it. How would you be breathing if you were kind? How would you be in your body? Normally I'm relaxed, open, expansive. When you find yourself self-critical, you can talk to that voice. You can say, thank you, I appreciate you trying to help me, and not right now. You can be firm, you can say no, or you can move to kindness in the body. Because once you're kind in the body, it's very difficult for that voice to maintain. Like their structure is gone. Yeah. Maybe a gesture, touch. In embodied yoga, we use this pose, self-care pose, one for all the yoga teachers to take away. You can do it standing, sitting, lying down. One on the shoulder, one on the side of the body. Head to the side, spine relaxed. I'd like everyone to try this pose if you're willing. We can just do this if you prefer. And ask yourself, does this feel familiar? Where do you do this? Maybe you're kind of self-abusive, but maybe there's one place in your life you'll do this. Nobody's a 1 out of 10, right? So maybe there's some place you already do this that you can extend, you can learn from. And what part of your life needs this? Is it your relationship to food or sex or money or your phone? What part of your life needs a bit more self-care? Me, it's phone use, overwork, sometimes food. Food can be a way to abuse yourself. Maybe it's the relationships you have, the friends you have in your life, you know? Have a friend that's abusive, it's your responsibility to get rid of them. Yeah, maybe to ask them first, then tell them, then get rid of them. So again, in the chat, yeah, I'm burping like a baby a little bit. But I've been drinking lots of herbal tea. Yeah. Okay, so where do you need a little bit more kindness in your life? If you can't manage self-love, go for self-kindness. If you can't manage self-kindness, go for self-friendliness. If you can't manage self-friendliness, go for self-civility. Politeness is the English version, okay? So some days just stopping self-abuse. Don't even treat yourself like a friend. Treat yourself like a stranger in a supermarket. You wouldn't just go up to them and be like, you're an asshole. Yeah? You'd at least be civil, okay? So this is the sort of scale, and sometimes it's too much. Self-love is too much, right? Some days. So we go friendly, you know, and then just polite. Hello, Mark. Wouldn't it be nice if you stopped doing that now? Okay. The self-care pose, that could be a pose you take away as a posture. Who would like to take that away as a little practice every day? Big thing about embodiment is to practice. Okay, guys, practice, not just to do it once. So if you like that, you could do that for 1 minute a day. You can incorporate it into your yoga poses, maybe with a rest pose or some other pose. Cool. Time for questions. What questions do you have? Okay, I'm going to review some of the basic self-care methods that we'll be looking at over this weekend. So I'll come back to any questions, so do type in your questions. Self-care could be doing the trauma work, like the trauma release exercises, like David Baselli. Could be looking at boundaries. I think Adam, my friend Adam's doing a session on that today. It could be free movement, like Adam from the Conscious Dance, yeah? Could be yoga practice. Could be a breath work practice, like the awesome Kathleen Booker does, you know? Actually, it could be environmental, like Philip Shepherd's really good on this. One thing I do every day is spend time in nature. You can see Peter there, topless in the garden, okay? Like I walk barefoot every day. It's on the grass. It's a wonderful practice. For me, nature's a food group. Does that make sense? So like I have to have carbohydrates, fat, protein. I also have to have water. I have to have rest, social support. I have to have nature. Play. Work, rest, and play. Work is also a food group. Okay, so underworking can also be a form of self-abuse. Work is contributing. It's doing something in the world. Being on purpose is a form of self-care. Yeah, purposeful work. This work has like a bad reputation in the Western world. It's like something we get paid for that we don't want to do. It's not how I see work. I see work as the change I want to make in the world. I see work as the contribution I want to make to life. Okay, so for me, that is nurturing for me to do that. Yeah, rest. I need to sleep, but also I need to play. So sleep, if sleep were a drug, someone would make a lot of money. I mean, sleep, think about what sleep is. It's incredibly strange and profound. When you go to sleep, you go into one of two very different mindsets. It's really two things, sleep, okay? Dreaming, which is where it's like mad hallucinogenic drugs. Like you have to be tripping hard to dream. Like dreaming is mad ass creative, sorting out your brain, tripping. Very difficult to do with any kind of chemicals. Yeah, it's mad, amazing usefulness. You go mad without. If you don't dream, you lose your creativity, you lose your compassion. And then we have deep sleep. Deep sleep is like being dunked into the consciousness of the universe. It's an amazing thing. Deep sleep is like temporary enlightenment. Why it's so restorative, just like dunking you in God. Yeah. Like even a moment of sleep. Who's a napper? I love napping as a self-care practice. It's like you just touch the void and you're restored, right? Like, oh my God, it's profound. So sleep is a hugely profound self-care practice. Yeah. So we've got work, rest, and play. We can't just work and sleep. You know what happens when I try and do this? I rebel. I stay up late. If I work till 10 o'clock at night and go, right, now I'm going to go to bed, I'm not fucking going to bed. Okay? There's no way. There's no way I'm going to sleep an hour later. Yeah? Because my system needs play. It needs fun. It needs, like, this might surprise some of you guys, but I'm into science fiction. I'm into something called Warhammer 40,000. It's just like a geeky Dungeons and Dragons type science fiction thing. Okay. Why? Because I just need to, I want to get away from all your emotional issues and the embodiment conference and psychology. I want to see space marines fight each other. Okay. Like it's good to have a hobby that's completely not like spiritual or some shit like that. Some of you are probably a bit too spiritual. Anyone guilty of that? Yeah. You need some play as well as some deep rest. Okay. Some questions. Yeah, so this is a really great question from Lisa. You can cognitively know something, but still have a bad habit, right? So who eats food they know is bad for them? Okay, who's on their phone when they really shouldn't be? Yeah, who has friends in their life that they know are absolute son of a bitches and should probably get out of their lives a bit deeper? Huh? So why do we do this? Embodied habit. So on some level, habit is just what we're used to doing. Like you turn your phone on in the morning, you start checking Facebook, get an alarm clock. For those of you who are millennials, an alarm clock is a single app device that wakes you up. Okay, imagine like that app on your phone, but on a piece of plastic. It's awesome. Okay, so then you don't have to turn your phone on when you've got no willpower and you can't resist the Facebook because you haven't even had your morning coffee. So sometimes it's just a bad habit. Sometimes it's this deeper pattern of trying to meet needs or a deeper embodied pattern that we need to look into a bit deeper. Yeah, so there's a sort of few levels we can look at this, just on the habit level or on the more like deep investigation level. Ooh, I'm just looking for any questions here. You might want to repeat the questions because they've got a lot of chat.
Mark, there's a Q&A button. There are 2 questions in there.
Awesome, there's a special button. Please could you say, yes, the self-care pose. So feet together, whether you're sitting or standing, lying down, you can also do this. Hug your body. Usually do it that way around, actually, because the heart's a bit more on the left. Head tilted, spine relaxed, and you're coming in. So you're sort of wrapping yourself up in a blanket. If you want to get the felt sense of it, get a duvet and wrap yourself up and give you like the somatic sense of it. If you find it hard to love yourself, get someone who cares about you to hug you as you do this, and then they gradually remove the hug and you keep the feeling. A couple of little methodologies there. My wife was awake, I would, but she was dealing poker till 6 in the morning, so I won't go and wake her up to get her to demonstrate. Only person in my house. Unless I can get this squirrel involved, I keep seeing. Good. Joining sessions. Okay, great. Great. So Maggie, give Pete that feedback. That would be so helpful for us. You're going to be giving an act of generosity to a lot of people. How does embodiment help you to deal with anxiety? Great. So you replace the word anxiety with anything you like. Anything that's a problem in your life. Everyone got at least one thing that's not perfect? Like sluggishness, depression, anger, whatever, okay? How does embodiment help? 1, notice how you do that in your body. 2, don't do that. Okay, there's my technique. That's everything I teach, awareness and choice. Notice the pattern of how, specifically how, in your body you create the anxiety or the anger or the stress. Number 2, do something else instead, like relax, expand, whatever. Yeah, as long as it's incompatible. Make sense? Genius, I know. You now know everything I have to teach about embodiment. If you're registered for the conference, you will have a free PDF of my book available at Amazon if you want to review it as well. I would appreciate that. But that has more on that, awareness and choice. There's a whole chapter on that. It's a core thing. Yeah, did I miss any questions? Or put them in the chat if I did. Anonymous. Yeah, EYP poses on the YouTube channel as well. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Virginia. Lots of free resources on my YouTube channel. And who's a podcast listener? Do we have any podcast listeners? They're used to listening to my voice late into the night. One guy in Australia picked me up from the airport. He's like, I listen to you every day, mate. And he's like, it was really weird because he like felt like he knew me and I had no idea who he was. But it was very nice to be picked up from the airport. Leaving Facebook has been extra relaxing. Right. So there's something called a Buddhist concept called guarding the gates of the senses. This is where we decide how much stimulus to put into us. So it could be how much phone use. Okay, could be what media you take on board. Like, do you need to watch the news every day? Maybe not, right? Maybe once a week is enough, right? Which news sources use? Like, I find a lot of stuff is very divisive at the moment. The clickbait, left versus right, white versus black, all this division. Like, do I want to keep putting that in me? Or it could be like a hobby you have. Like, one of my other hobbies is World War II history. Should I be watching documentaries on Stalingrad before I go to sleep? Probably not the best thing to put in my brain. Okay, so like guarding the gates of the senses, Buddhist concept, boundaries around what you consume, and by consume, media is definitely part of that. Yeah, your cognitive environment, your psycho environment. You are what you eat. Exactly, you are what you take in. Yeah. So you could also think of this. Who are the people you spend the most time around? Think of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Do they care for you? Okay, if they don't, then that's what you're going to take on. But now, anything you want to add to this? It'd be nice to get a different perspective, gender, culture, mum, any other perspectives you want to bring in to broaden out what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, we'll have the mom bit on the session coming up. So if all parents join that session. It was a big thing for me because usually I think it's normal construct that, mothers should be selfless and self-care is way down. But it's really a necessity in all aspects, in anything that we do. And I think cats are really cool prompt for that. I'd love to spend one day being a cat to really experience that self-care. Really.
Cats have great boundaries, don't they? Cats are just like, you know what? You're not stroking me right? Fuck you. Okay, like I'm out of here. Cats just go. Cats are like, who's your role model for self-care? It could be a cat, could be a human, right? Like, do you have a role model for that? Someone's asked a question I really want to answer quickly because it's been a misunderstanding, my bad. So don't ignore emotions. Emotions give you a message about your needs, right? I think I talked about that earlier. Okay, but we can also sometimes go too deep into them that's helpful. It's like, okay, I get it. Someone crossed my boundaries. I'm angry. I got the message. That's an important message to get. Anger's a messenger, right? When the phone rings, you don't smash it. You answer the phone. So, okay, anger, thank you very much. I need to do something about that. But then if I come into that relationship with rage, it's not going to help. So this is where we can moderate ourselves. So for me, self-care is a dance between listening and expressing, but also we're not toddlers, right? We don't just scream and cry on the supermarket floor when they run out of noodles. Yeah. So there's some balance between these two sides for most people in self-care.
There's a question about embodied meditation just before sleep. The self-care posture that we did, I do that before I go to sleep. So it's yay, well done on whatever happened that day. And I found that to be really, it shifts, my quality of sleep and my connection with myself. So it's, that's what we do to children, really, but we don't do to ourselves.
Right. This frame of how would I look after a child or how would I look after a friend if I was in charge of their life, it's a really nice frame. Some people learn self-care through caring for others, and then they put it back on themselves. They go, oh, what if I treat myself that good, Like I've seen, like, for example, I've had friends who are pregnant, and they all of a sudden started looking after themselves amazingly. I'm like, why not do that afterwards, right? Like, why not treat yourself that well? Like, why not? Somehow we, this maybe it's societal conditioning, I don't know, but yeah. Okay, what gets me out of self-care is needing validation and recognition from others. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so practicing self-love as opposed to getting love from outside. So breaking some of that addiction or finding healthy ways that you can get validation. We all need recognition, right? Like I enjoy the recognition of running the embodiment conference. I'm not going to lie, but it feels like a kind of healthy contribution that I can get recognition from. I'm not having to do anything that's against my values to get recognition that way, for example, right? I'm not having to fake it or show off or, do something unpleasant. So I think both resourcing oneself with self-love so you don't need it so much, and finding healthier sources of it, I would say, is a key answer to that. We haven't worked with emotions so much, with boundaries so much. And this is really key, right? That we tend to think of self-care as like, bubble baths, or I've got to meditate every day. And that's great. I have a bubble bath every day. I get a massage every week. I meditate every morning. These are some of the practices I recommend, right? But actually, the really heart of self-care, one is the self-esteem stuff, is working on your sense of worthiness and self-esteem. Because otherwise you won't self-care. The other one is boundaries. Okay, so hopefully I demonstrated this with our drop-in person. Maybe Steve, tell them not to drop in again like that today. It's a bit much. So boundaries is really key. So while I go to the toilet, because I've been drinking way too much herbal tea to relax, maybe Manal could speak a little bit more about boundaries. Are you okay with that, Manal? Yeah, so asking for support is another really important thing of self-care. Back into it.
Yeah, boundaries. So self-care, and I think sometimes there's this misconception that it always needs to be nice and fluffy, and it's self-love and self-care. And I think Mark had mentioned this at some point. But sometimes saying, no, I can't, I don't need to do that. I can't do that. Is a form of self-care, of like, even though I know that I have the capacity to do something, but it's getting to a point where I can no longer do that. So think of some point in your life. It might happen this morning, it might happen last week, of someone asking you to do something and you kind of like, oh yeah, I'll do that, and afterwards there's a lot of resentment and a lot of, you're exhausted, you don't like other people, and you feel, I don't want to be doing this anymore. So it's not kind to yourself, it's not kind to the other person as well, to feel that resentment of like, it's much better to say, okay, but it's another skill to learn, I guess, is to say, no, I can't do this. I'll do it next week, I'll do it tomorrow. Right now is not, I need to take care of myself, and that is really important. Yeah, so how is that,
Thanks, Manal.
Yeah.
Who's good with boundaries? Who's got like nice firm boundaries? You're able to assert them. You don't feel guilty. Someone like, no, I'm too nice. So it's a practice, right? Like Manal said, like seeing a lot of these things as skill sets, asking for what you want, asking for support. I realized I was getting stressed with the conference, so I just put on Facebook, hey, is anyone willing to be like a little empathy buddy to hear me rant? And I was so touched. 50 people said they would. I was like, shit, I wasn't expecting that at all, right? But I was really pleased with myself that I reached out for help. I said, this is what I need. Or I said to my wife the other day, I said, look, I know you don't normally cook. I normally do the cooking or the delivery ordering. I said, but can you cook for me this week? Because it's a really crazy busy week. I said, well, I don't really like that so much, but I'll do it this week. I'm like, no problem, thanks. Yeah, take you for dinner at the weekend. So, making those requests to people and setting boundaries, these are skill sets. So don't say to yourself, I can't do this, or I'm bad at it. Instead, say to yourself, I'm learning this. Not I need to learn, or I should learn. That's the wrong frame again, okay? But I am learning, and here are my practices for learning. Yeah, so who's bad at making requests, okay? If you're bad at making requests, your homework is to go home and find a beautiful lover and make requests of them, okay? That's the tough homework for those of you who are in any kind of intimate relationship, is to do it in the bedroom. A great place to learn to make requests. A really awesome place to learn for many people. If that's not appropriate for you, you can make requests for yourself. What do I really want to eat today? What would be really nourishing? Yeah, to eat. Would it be junk food, or would it be, vegan salad, whatever? So actually checking in and making that. Boundaries. Who's got an opportunity to practice boundaries? Train your housemate to ask for unreasonable things. Yeah? So ask your housemate to be like, make me a cup of tea, Steve. Like, no. Yeah? So you get a chance to say no. You get that opportunity to say no. Really good one is if you have a child, like a 10-year-old is good for this, tell them you're going to give them like $10 every time they ask you for something unreasonable and you do it. Motivate that child to give you practice. Okay, that's a really good way to play with it because the kid will try and catch you out, right? Fun way. Making chicken soup, always a winner. Okay, winner, chicken dinner. Good. Questions. Sleep. Main things for sleep. Sleep hygiene. Main ones: exercise. Don't have caffeine in the evening. Don't look at any screen time. Reduce your light levels 3 hours before going to bed. Most people that have insomnia can be solved by those things. Okay, so that's caffeine, screen time, exercise, light levels. One way of looking at self-care as well is in terms of cycles. So Ruby May is going to talk about women's cycles, okay? But there's many cycles. So it's knowing when to work and when to rest. Some people don't actually work hard enough to be able to rest well. Some people just work hard, yeah? So it's like that cycle is the important thing. You can all do this with a breath, right? Breathe in, and then breathe out. Sometimes doing a big breath in and a breath hold can help you breathe out. I actually relax deeper having worked a bit harder. You feel the difference? Yeah, so now breathe in and hold for 10. I relax more deeply after that. And by relaxing more deeply, I can do more work. So what motivates you for self-care? There's a few angles on this. One, you're just good enough anyway. Okay, you're a human being, you're good enough, you're worth it, right? The L'Oreal method. Okay. Second one, if that's too difficult to get to, self-care for other people. For those of you who are very other orientated, this can be a good way in. I can't possibly serve you guys as a teacher or a conference leader if I don't take care of myself. You know, the last month, it's been so easy to meditate and exercise because the conference has given me an orientating principle. Yeah, so purpose or people that orientate you to self-care. The old put your own oxygen mask on first, right? Like, is there something in your life more important than your self-loathing bullshit? Something that you can be of service to, which requires self-care. I said to the whole staff team, I said, listen, right now I'm a 7 out of 10 in terms of being the best I can be, 10 being the best I've ever been. To do this conference, I need to be at 12, right? Like, I need to get my shit together in the next month. Make sense? And that for me, as a strongly purpose-orientated person, that means that self-care becomes important. Another one for the parents. What are you modeling for your children? And actually for all of us, what are we modeling to all our loved ones, right? Children and loved ones and everyone copies what you do, not what you say. If you give a shit about the people around you, if you want them to develop good habits, self-care teaches that. Yeah, my wife's a great role model for me on this. I see her, like, she looks after herself. She doesn't tolerate bullshit. Takes her private time when she needs private time, you know. It's really like, wow, cool. It's inspiring, you know. I'm like, I could do that. Yeah. So what are we modeling for people around us? Okay. Yeah, and I would say, Jessica, Sherry, you're right. Like there is that if you can actually get to the deeper level of you're just doing it for yourself and that's enough, I would recommend that. So I think this is a bit of a hack for the more sort of nice relational people. I'm guessing you're one of them. So like it's a good way in, kind of a cheat. But ultimately it's like, you know what, I don't need to justify self-care. Yeah. So if you're very people orientated or very purpose orientated like me, that's a good way in. It's a good kind of like extra motivator. I was doing self-care before the conference, but it just gave me that extra like, okay, I really need to look after myself. Okay, Steve, we end at 10:02, right? So we're coming towards the end here, right? Am I getting that correct?
Correct. Yeah, so we'll just wrap things up. I'm going to hop over to set up the next session. You've got other people here in the background.
So well, we got a bit of time to wrap up here. So what are your key takeaways? What are your key takeaways today from myself and Manal? Anyone you want to remember, you want to dance it, you want to draw about it, you want to tell your cat or your therapist. Any key takeaways? This is good feedback for me too, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, allowing yourself to be imperfect, allowing yourself to be human. That's what this is all about. Not being the ultimate meditator who has a bath and a massage every single day. You know, it's just another tyranny, right? When do you need discipline? When do you need freedom? When do you need to have the organic salad for health? And when do you need to have chips because fuck it? Cats. Okay, that's your takeaway. Good takeaway. Squirrels for me today. I'm having the squirrel day. What's any names for my new pet squirrel that lives outside my house who I'm blatantly going to start feeding and petting? He's made it up to the 3rd floor. I should give him some love, you know? Any squirrel names? Come on, this is important, guys. Mr. Nutkins. Bernard. I like Bernard. Bernard the squirrel. I'm going to have to check that it's gender appropriate. I guess Bernard could be anyone's names. You check a squirrel's gender. Let's not go there. That's no place to end. Toffee. Okay. Nature as a food group. Nice. What did you learn today? Not to self-abuse. Treat yourself as a friend. Call it meta. Yeah, it was jumping around while we were doing meta. Gary. I like Gary. Gary. Oi. Gary the white van squirrel. I'm not calling it Trump. Okay. Come on, there's a line. Poor squirrel. I like Gary. I'm going with Gary. Winner. Gary. Whoever said Gary, send me an email. I'll give you a free voucher for the shop as a thank you. Prize. Okay, so some things for you guys. We have the embodiment circles going on right now. Maybe Steve can share the link. Circles is an online chance to experience all kinds of things, including Paul Linden, my teacher. We've got ones for women who are too nice. We've got ones on sex, ones on money, all sorts. So if you want to join a circle, have a look in the chat. There's a link for the circles there. Steve could put that up. What else? Tell your friends about the conference. Please, 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 please share the conference. So that's the main embodimentconference.org link. Basically, every one of your friends who signs up saves me like $2 of Facebook ads, which I'd really appreciate because I'm £250,000 in debt. So do tell your friends, put it on your Facebook, tag a couple of friends. I would do that's a little thank you to me if you've got something from today that's cost you nothing. I would appreciate. So put that on your social media, tag a couple of friends who would love it. If they're going to love it anyway, why not tell them? If you want the recordings for all of the Self-Care Weekend, plus the entire conference, you can buy those online, your university library, yours to keep forever. Also, we're doing tutorial groups as a special offer just for the moment. That will go. So tutorial groups means you can actually talk through with other people you're learning 1,000 presentations, actually over 1,000, in your own time. That's like a 3-year university course, which is not bad for the price. So do have a look at that. All the embodiment expertise you'll ever need with many, many perspectives, and using this cool computer system, you can now find exactly what you want. You can now find whatever you need. So that would, again, support us, but also I think just supports your own learning. So there you go. Thank you, Manal, for helping out here a little bit. I'm sure people will enjoy your session on parenting. Steve, anything I've forgotten? Do you want to tell people what's next?
So Steve's already gone off this next
Sorry,
session.
Yolanda.
But next we have Yasmin. She's a semantic educator and the creator of Soma Sensing.
Yasmin's cool. Originally from South Africa. She's got a nice vibe, very gentle, very different style to me. We like to have sort of different styles here. So yeah, very, very cool. Okay, Manal, anything you want to say as a closing comment or to give people as a gift?
Maybe a breath, because I think that's the most accessible self-care tool that we have. So maybe a breath, all of us together, and remembering to do that throughout the day. Let's go ahead and inhale. And exhale. And something we don't get to do that often, do whatever you want to do for the next minute. Whatever that everyone.
Thank you to Manal. Thank you for Yolanda and Steve for hosting us. Do tell us your tech feedback. If you look in the chat, there's a place you can leave it. We're really learning, so thank you for helping us learn. But I think it's going relatively smoothly. I'm happy with this. I've enjoyed this today. You've reminded me of some good ways to take care of myself. And yeah, do get the conference recordings if you want to support us and your own learning for the next few years. So thank you very much, everyone. That was awesome. Everyone say bye, Gary. This is going to be my new obsession. Leaving nuts on that.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, Peter. Thank you, Jessica, Sarah. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Kat, for being on the screen. It's nice to have humans to look at while teaching.